Hello, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving week. All right. Y'all know I've been on the thyroid rampage, right? And it, I don't want to say won't get better, but I have been hearing from a lot of clients that I work with who are wanting to optimize their thyroid. And when they go back to their PCP and say, hey, I'm working with a functional medicine specialist and she's looking at my labs and she wants me to start on compounded thyroid medication. And basically they're saying, nah, you don't need it. Nope, you don't need it. One person was told that she just needs vitamin D. Well, I am starting to get really annoyed because no one in traditional medicine is looking at how everything is connected. Hello, everything in our body is connected. We touch one system, another one is affected. So there is a whole tie-in to an optimized thyroid and optimizing your vitamin D. And surprise, we'll be working on a program for that. So here's the thing. And I have some notes because I don't want to get into the weeds. No one traditional medicine looks at everything very siloed. They don't connect the dots. But when you start to connect the dots, we see that vitamin D is huge in your thyroid hormone receptor network, okay? Especially T3, which is the thyroid hormone that is never looked at, because everyone out there who is on Levothyroxine or Synthroid, that is T4. And if you've been listening to me and paying attention to what I've been talking about, T4 is like having a 10-year CD. So you've got the money, but you can't spend it, okay? Your liver needs to convert T4 into T3 to use it as cash, okay? That is the cash asset that your cells use for energy. That's the thyroid's version of our energy source. Hello, metabolism, okay? T3 is what runs your metabolism. It's the thyroid hormone that is responsible for that. If you don't have optimal D3, if you don't have optimal vitamin D, which technically it's a hormone, not a vitamin. Fat soluble, so if your cholesterol is too low, if your cholesterol is being suppressed by a statin, you don't have the fat, the cholesterol, the mother hormone that your body needs to make vitamin D and all your other fat soluble vitamins for that matter. Okay, so it's like a flywheel, okay? Vitamin D feeds the thyroid feeds the vitamin D. So without addressing and optimizing both of these, and we'll talk about how we optimize that in a second, but without looking at the full system and how to optimize both of these, we're kind of missing the boat. You'll never have an optimized vitamin D level if your thyroid T3 is not optimized, because you need these raw materials to make everything. Okay, and of course, I will repeat myself a million times over. If your PCP is only getting a TSH, not a T3, not a T4, and not a reverse T3, they are not seeing the whole picture. Your TSH has nothing to do with your thyroid hormone. Your TSH is produced in your brain. It comes out from your pituitary gland. Your pituitary gland tells your thyroid by way of thyroid stimulating hormone, your TSH, tells your thyroid how much T4 to produce. T4 is useless without it being converted by your liver into T3. Then we throw in stress and inflammation, and that little tricky bit, we throw that in, and what happens is your liver will then produce reverse T3 rather than T3, and that puts the brakes on things. So my opinion is you need all four of these to really start to look at your thyroid, and that's a minimum. So super, super important. Now, when we talk hormones, it's always a receptor and a lock, right? So we have the hormone, we have the hormone receptor, just like a key with a lock. Each hormone receptor needs a specific hormone to go into the lock and key mechanism. To do all of that, when we get to, like when we're digging deeper, hey Kim, when we're digging deeper and deeper into this thyroid vitamin D flywheel, we need to look at minerals. So here, everything ties in together, and this is one thing, again, that is totally dismissed by traditional medicine. So when we're talking about minerals, our food sources now are so deficient in minerals because our soil, our agricultural system, farming is not done like it used to be. Exactly. So this is why, farmers markets are fantastic. The farm to table places, literally getting back to basics is where so much of our health lives. So these minerals, and I'm talking, we know the big ones, right? Calcium, potassium, phosphorus, magnesium. Those are the big ones, the big four. The trace minerals that no one talks about, no one in traditional medicine tests, it is literally the raw materials that our body needs to produce things, to have the proper hormone receptor and have that hormone receptor opened up so it takes the right hormone, and not a phytoestrogen or a fake hormone blocking. So, that's the problem with soy. Anyway, I'm trying not to get into the weeds. That's why I have notes, but I'm getting into the weeds. So we're gonna pull me back in. So the minerals that we're talking about, these little minerals, selenium. I'm sure we've all heard of selenium. If you're worried about your thyroid, you're thinking selenium. Molybdenum, manganese, boron. These are all the trace elements that help the four big guys, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, sodium, potassium. These little trace elements help the big guys, and they all together feed the whole mechanism of hormone and vitamin production, right? For lack of a better word, and they feed the whole thing. So if you're looking at this as a system, at the absolute bottom are minerals. Then we can look at our hormone cascades, our vitamins, how they're being made. But if our body doesn't have the raw materials, and let's throw cholesterol into those raw materials, because without cholesterol at 180, our bodies don't have that mother hormone to help create all of this. Think of it like your kitchen, right? Our body needs things to make everything it has to make. If your pantry is empty, you can't make a good meal. Well, same thing. If your body's pantry is empty, it cannot make what it needs to. So now I want to touch on vitamin D again. I always recommend that you take it with some kind of fat, an avocado, salmon, eggs. That helps you absorb it because it's fat soluble. Now, I like it I like it no less than 60. Minimum of 60, between 60 and 80, 60 and 100, ideal. Pair it with vitamin K because that helps its absorption. It also makes sure that the calcium goes into your bones and not your arteries. See, this, because vitamin D increases calcium. Okay, and this is where, it's hard not to get into the weeds because nothing is ever simple. So vitamin D increases calcium absorption. Just because you have a high level of calcium in your body doesn't mean that it's being put into your bones to give you strong bones. So things that we need to do, we want to increase the calcium absorption. Vitamin K, make sure that calcium goes into your bones because P.S. Arteries is plaque, right? Calcifications, calcium. Kidney stones are an excess of calcium. So when we don't have the right ratios and we don't have the elements that balance each other, then things aren't always where they're supposed to be. You can have a whole lot of calcium in your body, but it can be being pushed into soft tissue, making kidney stones, making plaque in your arteries. It needs to be paired up with the proper partner in order to be used effectively, which is why I will say until I'm blue in the face, test, don't guess. There are very few supplements that I would ever recommend taking without data to support why you're taking them. So please do not listen to random people who say, take this, unless you know your body needs it, your body's going to do what it's supposed to do with it, because it can backfire. Vitamin D, in my opinion, is one of those things that if you supplement properly, it can help. However, and it's so important, it's one of those things that better to supplement, but if you're not doing the supplementation properly, it's like a bottomless pit. You can keep dumping the vitamin D in there, and it's never really going to build up to an optimal level unless you have that foundation holding it up. And this is true because, we think, especially living in the cold north, we, think, oh, our vitamin D levels get worse in the winter. I will go to my kids in Florida who are always outside, always at the beach, always on the golf course, and their vitamin D is no better than any of ours in the winter in Ohio. And that goes back to those raw materials to help support the vitamin D. It goes back to not wearing sunscreen, which is totally against what everyone recommends the last 50 years. Our kids are just slathered with sunscreen. We're not absorbing the vitamin D. And no one talks about foods. Fatty fish, sardines, mackerel, salmon, super high in vitamin D, in good absorbable dietary vitamin D, which is always better than a supplement. Egg yolks, especially from pasture-raised chickens. Coming from someone who had our chickens, oh boy, do I miss them. The difference in egg yolks night and day, the nutritional components of pasture-raised chickens to, the regular old chicken eggs you get anywhere else, totally different. Plus, throw into that mix everybody in the last 50 years being on a low-fat, low-cholesterol diet and not even looking at an egg yolk. Egg yolks contain So many amazing sources that help your body make vitamins, make hormones, decrease cholesterol. So cholesterol is not your enemy. Cod liver oil, that's an absolute old school trick, but it's just like fish oil, but it's literally, fish oil. Awesome source of vitamin D. So 2,000 to 5,000 a day. Again, we need to support those minerals, so it's not a bottomless pit that you keep dumping vitamin D into. All right, today's the last day. If you want to join our holiday reset, jump in. We're going to make the best out of the days we have in between holidays, right? Because this is all about small, consistent steps. You all know I'm not about quick fixes. I'm about lifestyle changes and living your best life for as long as you possibly can. All right, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I will not be cooking anything on Friday. I'm going to take the weekend off. All right, enjoy.